Hello and welcome to the Geeks Review. I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
Today we're going to be discussing His Dark Materials, an HBO series airing on Foxtel, based on the Philip Pullman novels of the same name. This series is a fantasy series dealing with alternate realities, alternate worlds, magic, demons, all that kind of stuff. It was adapted into a movie in 2007 called The Golden Compass.
What was 2006?
2007.
Okay.
Starring Nicole Kidman, Daniel Craig and Sam Elliott, and more recently it's been adapted into the HBO series, which we're going to discuss a bit today, or at least I am, with Ruth Wilson, James McAvoy and Lin-Manuel Miranda in those same roles. So, how familiar were you with this series prior to watching?
Nothing at all. Other than maybe a bit from an American Dad episode where Jeff wanted a polar bear helmet for Christmas.
So, you just watched the film,
Yes.
Golden Compass. What were your thoughts on that?
What the hell is this?
It is a bit strange.
It is. It takes a little bit to sort of figure out what's going on. No, I will say I was slightly distracted while I was watching it, but I was watching it, and yeah, I try. It's a book film, and I feel like there's a lot of pieces missing, which are probably better explained in the show.
Yeah, I think a definite benefit of having a TV series is you've got more time to establish these things and to really dive into this. I'd seen this film before, and I
Yeah.
recently watched the series. It did air a few months ago as of the time of recording, but we're all still at home, we're all looking for stuff to watch, and this is a big recommendation now. I meant to talk about this a few months ago, but here we are.
Here we are now.
So this is set in a parallel world where magic is real, there's witches, there's all this kind of stuff, and people's souls are separate from their bodies and they take the form of animals, and they're called demons.
That I
So-
do remember. That did stick with me.
So yeah, the demons are, an animal that's somewhat relevant to your personality. The main girl, Lyra, her demon, Pan, is like still yet to settle. He changes shapes. He could be a polecat or like a sable, or a bird, or a cat, all kinds
Yeah.
of things. In the series, she's actually played by Daphne Keane. She played Laura Kinney, X-23 in Logan,
Yes.
and she's really good in that.
Oh yeah, I knew she was going to go far after Logan.
Like I said, the series really expands upon the concepts which you see, and like I said, explores it a bit more. Because the film does start with this whole, there are different worlds. But then it says that, but does nothing with it.
No.
And I haven't read the books yet, but when you compare the two series, it's like there's a lot of striking similarities. The one thing that really clued me on to His Dark Materials being related to this were the armoured polar bears.
Yeah.
Which was-
the huge selling point for the Golden Compass film.
Yeah, because this was at the time where Harry Potter was big and the Narnia films were coming out. I think it was
A new
before
generation of Narnia films, but yeah.
yeah, Prince Caspian was
Yes.
around the time. But I remember seeing like the armoured polar bears back then and being like, is this sort of a Narnia thing?
Yeah.
And
Definitely looks like a product of the times when it was written.
yeah, though it is different considerably, because Narnia, well, one thing that might interest you, I'm not sure how much you got from this. The book series has been criticised as being very anti-religion,
Yeah.
like very pro-atheist, and that's actually what the author has said. He's trying to make
Yeah.
that.
Oh no, I did get a vibe like that, and I understand exactly what you
Yes.
mean by how the Chronicles of Narnia are very pro-Christian.
Yes. So this is very much a response to that book.
Yeah.
And, there's obviously been arguments about stuff. And the author actually said, Harry Potter actually got a lot of flack from from the Christian folk, whereas my book sort of went unscathed. When it's quite critical. It seemed
Yeah.
immensely so.
Mind you, his works seem a little bit more subtle as to the blatant witchcraft in Harry Potter.
Well, yeah, I'm not a religious person, so sort of a lot of stuff goes over my head. I will be honest, because I'm just not knowledgeable about that sort of thing. But when you've gone and got the Magisterium, the bad guys, and they're basically dressed like priests with the white collars and all,
Oh yeah.
and the black robes, it's very like, oh, okay, and they're the authority of this world. And
I will say underused Derek Jacobi and Christopher Lee from the film.
Christopher Lee gets one line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Derek Jacobi, Magda Sabansky, is in this, and it's like, oh, okay, what's she doing here? And it's, like I said, it's a massive cast.
Yeah.
I mean, Eva Green is in it briefly
Yes.
as a witch. And the series, which, I do want to focus on, but we're mostly comparing the two.
Yes.
So, yeah, this is a story about this girl, Lyra, in this alternate world where, like I said, people have their demons, their animals, they're embodiments of their souls. And you harm one, you harm the other. They're one and the same.
Yeah.
And her uncle, Lord Asriel, has made a discovery of some sorts and has gone off to explore connections between alternate worlds and realities and such. Meanwhile, Lyra, who's, living in Oxford, she's an orphan there, is approached by this woman, Mrs. Coulter, who's played by Nicole Kidman in the film.
Yes.
And Ruth Wilson from Luther and The Affair and such in the series.
Oh, yeah.
And she invites Lyra along and quickly reveals herself to be a very controlling presence and very manipulative and very basically the bad guy.
Yes.
And you do have the reveal at the end of the film that she is Lyra's mother and Lord Asriel is not her uncle but her father. So it's a big end of film reveal.
Your mother is your sister and your father is your uncle.
In the series, it reveals it in episode 3.
Yep.
So it's like right off the bat, like Lyra goes through most of the series knowing her parents and either trying to get away from them or meet them. And the series is sort of back to front. I mean, you've gone and got the bit with the bears. The main bear, he talks, Yorick, played by Ian McKellen in the film.
Oh, okay.
I actually found out he was originally voiced by Chris Hemsworth in 2007. So this is before Cabin in the Woods, years before Thor. But they replaced him at the last minute because they didn't feel he was a big enough draw. Which makes sense. He was a nobody really back then.
Yeah, it was nobody. And it's like, wow, really?
He's got the voice.
Yeah, but granted, that probably might have saved his career a little bit.
Yeah. And Ian McShane as the other bear.
Yes.
And you have a big fight between the two, which is very PG, because this is a PG thing.
I don't know. It wasn't... When that jaw came off, that didn't seem very PG.
Yeah. That's something from the books, I found out.
Yeah.
And in the series, the CGI is phenomenal. This is, CGI has come a long way. It looks like two real bears fighting each other. But you don't actually have that gore in this slightly more mature adult thing. You do have hints at like brutality and sort of more harshness. Like you do have more explicit peril that the child characters are in.
Yeah.
They're tortured and stuff. You might remember there's a scene where a boy was found and he'd been like separated from his demon, his soul.
Yes.
He dies in the film, and it's quite a long, prolonged scene where you've gone and got these, they're sort of like, travelers, these characters, Egyptians, they're like this subculture. They greatly prize children within their culture, and they mourn him, and it's really quite an emotional thing. And watching this series watching the movie and compared to the series, the movie's like the entire series on like fast forward.
Yeah.
Like
Pacing issue.
When they meet the bear Yorick, it's like, "Go away, child, do not come near me." 2 minutes later, "I am indebted to you." It sort of reminded me of like when you replay a video game.
Yeah.
And you need to get certain things to get the approval of a character, and you go do it beforehand, and you're just
it's like replaying a mission when you already know that what you're doing.
Yeah. So it's like, "Here, Yal Bulgriff, I already have the thing you need."
Ooh.
Instead of, going down that hole for 2 hours fighting Draga. Skyrim reference.
Hey.
But his Dark Materials, Golden Compass. It is sort of a steampunk world.
Okay, that's good.
Oh, I mean, in the movie it is, like, you've gone and got the airships still, and a strange sort of steampunk carriage car briefly seen.
Yeah.
In the series, it's just like, they do have vehicles, and you do explore the connection between the two realities a lot deeper. There's actually a character who's sort of a secondary protagonist in Series 2, Will.
Yes.
Who's a boy from our reality, and his own parents are from, like, Lyra's world and all that. But he's of our world, which is contemporary 2019, 2020. No COVID, of course. But
hey.
it's our world, and they do deal with, like, jumping between different realities, different worlds, and Lyra comes into our world and she kind of witnesses, like, you see the differences more clearly, where there is magic, there's witches, there's all that stuff in hers, and then there's phones and there's all this other technology, which is sort of beyond her understanding.
Yes.
And I kind of like to see that juxtaposition in Series 2, where we've been introduced to this fantasy world, which is quite grounded in comparison to the film as well. Well,
I don't know. I watched the film and it did not hold my attention.
Yeah, it's very much, like you said, it's a book film, and it's sort of like you need to go in with a pre-knowledge of having it. And like I said, it is just like watching it on fast forward, just how it shoots through those plot points. Do you want to sort of hear how the series ends? Or at least talk about the spoilers for Series 2, for Series 1?
Sure.
I'll leave Series 2. So
I'll probably look at him blankly and just go, okay.
Well, you've kind of got this process which is established where they can separate, the demons from the child.
Yes.
And that is something quite devastating. You're essentially ripping out someone's soul. You're lobotomizing them, kind of thing. And you do see the results of that more explicitly, and the machinery that does it is a lot more impactful. Also, at that point in the film, Lyra didn't know who Mrs. Coulter was in relation to her. In this moment, she does in the series, and uses that to her advantage to get away. Just a lot more dramatic tension and a lot more brutality. That actually happens before the bear fight. And they've been rescued by the witches and the Egyptians, and they're going away on the balloon with Lee Scoresby, played by Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame, and Sam Elliott, who's two diametrically opposed, but they play the character both really well. And she falls off the balloon and is found. She survives, found by the bears, and you got this tremendous bear fight. And at the end of the series, she finally meets up with Lord Asriel, James McAvoy in the series, Daniel Craig, who kind of disappears. Not even halfway through the film, you never see him again.
You see him like briefly once, and it's like, no, bye.
Exactly. And in this, she meets him. She goes to his North Pole laboratory, and when he sees her, he freaks out, and he's like, "No, Lyra, what are you doing here?" And then reveals that the boy that she rescued from the facility, her friend from back in Oxford, is there as well, and he calms down a bit. So the Magisterium shows up, and you've got a big battle between them, their airships with their Gatling guns, and the armoured bears on the ground. Massive fight, sort of like World War I trenches, but with bears.
Yes.
And Lord Asriel grabs Lyra's friend and drags him away, and chucks him into this machine, and kills him in order to breach a hole in realities and step forth into other worlds. Lyra is horrified. Her father, who's not a nice man.
No, apparently.
No, even before. And he's now got this goal of overthrowing the authority, the Catholic Church allegory within this thing, and to sort of introduce three... That's another thing that was very sort of on the nose with the film as well, where it's like, we can't have imagination and free will, they must conform to our standards. Very on the nose.
For the children.
Yeah, exactly. Very much, we must think about the children.
I will say, when I did watch that scene, all I could think of was the community watch meeting from Hot Fuzz, the greater good.
Yeah, it is a bit, yeah. One thing I really liked as well was the witch Serafina Pekkala, played by Eva Green.
There it is.
In the film, and the actress they have to play her, I can't pronounce her name, English actress, but she is like a clone of Eva Green. But she just shows up and she just feels like she's otherworldly and just sort of strange looking, and I mean, very short hair in comparison, and like tattoos, sort of like tattooed scars up her arms, and when she like flies, it's like a puff of like smoke and steam as they like whiz across the air, and they're like shooting across the battlefield, like literally slitting people's throats and stabbing them through the hearts. I know, FX and stuff don't
This was based on a children's book, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, actually. I looked it up, and there was a lot of people, it's probably just YouTube comments.
Yeah.
Boo, YouTube. People in the YouTube comments just going, oh, the TV series is crap because he doesn't knock his jaw off. Oh, okay. But then the film did it.
Yeah.
The arguably more children-friendly film has that horrific moment where
so weird.
The bear has his jaw ripped off.
Well, at least that makes 2 episodes this month that we've ripped on YouTube for.
Wow, they keep bloody. So I think it's really solid and it does explain it a lot more. It does kind of establish it all a bit better. You really come to understand who the characters are and relate to them because, like I said, I mean, Sam Elliott just coasts on him being Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is like completely different, but playing the same character and does so much with it, it is different. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I might give it a thought, but at the moment...
When you watch Series 1, it's going to be like, this is all very familiar.
Yeah.
Like, doing the side-by-side comparisons, it does stretch it out,
Okay.
but does it better. Like I said, it does establish it enough, and when you have Yorick the bear, when he sort of comes to their side, he's already been there for a good few minutes and you've had a few meetings with him. It's not just like, hey man, follow my cause. Sure thing.
Bear.
But he's great though.
Yeah.
Great big bear. Yeah, his Dark Materials is on Foxtel. It's probably on DVD now.
Yeah, it would be by now.
I hope so anyway. Check it out. Did you have anything else you wanted to discuss on this episode of...
There is one.
Yep.
I did watch probably the first in a very long time of new Mortal Kombat media to be consumed.
Mm-hmm.
Mortal Kombat: Scorpion's Revenge.
What's this?
Netflix original film.
Ooh.
Uses some of the voice actors from the games. Big shocker, they get the cheapest ones. It's basically a retelling of the first game and first movie, but more of a focus on Scorpion and his story. How he was once Hanzo Hasashi, leader of the Shirai-Ryu ninja clan, and how his family and clan got wiped out by Lin Kuei and Sub-Zero.
Right.
A lot of backstabbing, a lot of brutality, and quite frankly, honest to God, it is a good film.
Is this animated?
It is animated.
CGI or 2D?
2D.
Oh, okay. So anime sort of style.
Yes, but its own, not more anime. It's done by Warner Brothers.
Right.
It's definitely got its own unique style, sharp edges, sort of like the old comic styles where the jaws are very prominent, or, you can very easily tell their lines and such with how they've been drawn.
So Warner Brothers, I mean, Batman movies, we had a lot of animated Batman series released over these. Do you think it's sort of that kind of same deal, or is it different?
It's different. It's definitely different. This feels more like an actual Mortal Kombat film than it would something else. What? Yeah, okay. Other than people killing each other and jaw ripping and such.
The theme of today's episode.
The theme of this episode: dismemberment. You can easily watch this just for the parts of Scorpion. It's a retelling of the first film if you haven't played the games, but it focuses more on Scorpion's backstory and sort of leaves it open for a second film.
Right. So, is this sort of like a reboot in a way, like a retelling, or is this consistent with everything that's come out? Actually, that's a question. Like, every time we get a new Mortal Kombat game, is it a new continuity, or is it like continuing the same story that's been going on for decades?
Up until NetherRealm took over, it was a seamless continuation of the story.
Right.
Yes, Mortal Kombat has a story. Shocker, right? When NetherRealm took over, they used the first two games they had in their license to sort of tie up their own the old story, and sort of try and set it up to where they'll have a clean slate for the next few games. And with the most recent game that they've done, they've really kicked open the gates for a clean slate.
Right, okay.
Yeah, because the last game deals with a lot of time travel BS and a titan of time, with the only exception being the one above it all.
So, quick question to like someone who's completely out of the fandom. I mean, I used to know some of the characters and such, but how do they justify the characters killing each other and coming back? Do they come back, or is it just like...
Some of them do, some of them don't.
Within the plot, you fight this guy, he gets killed.
Yeah.
And that's him, and then just in, player versus player, it's, whoever gets killed and whatever, it's just...
So, really, it's about defending the realm. So that's what the Mortal Kombat tournament is. It's held every 10 generations, or every 10 years or so, depending on, what continuity it is. And it's a challenge issued by a different realm to another realm. The winner, either their realm doesn't get invaded, or they will absorb the realm that they've challenged. And they have to win 10 straight consecutive matches.
Oof.
And because, this is a 100-year spanning tournament, the fighters will change out and whatnot. So it is a battle to the death over defending your realm.
Right, okay.
With the exception of some characters being brought back either through evil, sciencey sorcery or being turned into cyborgs.
So there are like characters who it's like, they're from different generations. They wouldn't interact at all unless he was like brought back by cybernetic memes.
Or being brought back as a revenant.
You're right, okay.
Or just being brought back in general.
What's interesting?
It is interesting. There's a lot of lone characters, and some characters who you think die off come back as a different character. The original Sub-Zero, Bihan, is now known as Noob Saibot, and he's this weird, shadowy revenant fella who can create shadow clones out of himself out of the strange black goo, while the new Sub-Zero, the current Sub-Zero that we're aware of, is Kuai Liang.
Right, okay. Was he a character prior to that? Like, was he his own dude and now he's taken the mantle?
They're brothers.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So it's the Sub-Zero is a family affair.
Yes. And how about Scorpion himself, the central character of this film, which you were talking about?
Scorpion, it's just Scorpion, I must kill Sub-Zero to avenge my family because they were all brutally murdered by the Lin Kuei. And this is definitely living up to that gore factor. And it sadly really wraps up Scorpion's story a little bit too quickly. Yeah, it's Scorpion's revenge, but I thought they would have played it out a little bit longer, where he finds out that it was actually this albino sorcerer, Quan Chi, who actually disguised himself as Sub-Zero and killed his family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Intrigue.
A lot of intrigue, and it just so happens that Quan Chi was the one who resurrected Scorpion after making a deal with him in the Netherrealm, which is, I guess you could call it hell.
Right, okay.
And the Netherrealm's ruled by an elder god by the name of Shin. There's a lot of there's actually a lot of complexity to this, and quite frankly, I would need 6 hours and a whiteboard. I would need a whiteboard for this. Maybe not string, but a whiteboard.
So a question I meant to ask last week in our review of Cobra Kai, which was the continuation of the Karate Kid. By having this license, now what they tend to do is they have the license to something, so they go and show the other films on their service.
Yes.
So I don't know if the Karate Kid and all its related films are actually on Netflix, or if maybe the other Mortal Kombat films that there are on Netflix as well to sort of tie into this.
No, the original Mortal Kombat films are not on Netflix.
Right.
Otherwise, I would be watching the crap out of the first one. I am not sure about the Karate Kid.
Right.
As of recording this, I am unaware if the Karate Kid films are on Netflix.
Just go on Netflix and have a look.
Yeah, I will do that now, but I want to save data.
Yes. So, yeah, Mortal Kombat, eh? So what's this called again?
Mortal Kombat, Scorpion's Revenge.
Awesome. And that's just on Netflix?
That's just on Netflix.
Awesome. So if you're a fan, do you think, again, newcomers could come to this, or would they be lost?
Newcomers could get into this, if you can look past the twisting, turning, what the hell is this?
Bit of a change, though, to go from, like, an animation to
absolutely
brutality.
But it is, it definitely holds true to the series,
Cool. Definitely one for the fans to check out, then.
Definitely one for the fans.
Wrapping it up,
yes.
We've discussed the Mortal Kombat animation. That was Scorpion's Revenge.
Scorpion's Revenge.
Terrible memory I have.
We just said that 5 seconds ago.
And here's Dark Materials, which is the adaptation of the series by Phil Pullman. And it can basically remake of the Golden Compass film. Done in more depth, more detail, yeah. And really engaging. I really want to see what happens next. And I'm thinking I might revisit it. It's just that good, and love some of the characters, and genuinely quite torn up by some of the stuff that happens in it. Much like Scorpion and his enemies.
Well, at least he's doing it for honorable means, you know, avenging his clan and his wife and son, and it really does actually. I will say, it gives us at least a good 10 to 8 minutes with him and his son before his son is killed. I was trying to think. Hang on, how badly was it? No, I gotta remember. This is for public airing.
Anyway, I'm Royce.
And I'm Joshua.
And that's been the Geeks Review. See you next time. Bye for now.